Hi, everybody. We are live. Welcome to State of Svelte. So excited to be here today. I see a lot of happy people in the chat. Hello, everybody. Tell us where you're from. We always love to see people calling in from all the different places. I'm going to share my slides really quickly. Like I said, welcome. Wanted to give a big shout out to the marketing team at ThisThought. Without them, we wouldn't be able to actually do anything because we'd be too busy. So thank you so much for that. At ThisThought, we actually just launched workshops. And, if you're really interested in just getting involved in new technologies and learning about new technologies, we have 3 workshops coming up. Svelte Kit workshop happening on Thursday, actually, so April 13th. And we are giving out scholarship tickets and tickets for those underrepresented. So if you want a ticket, just tweet at this.media and we'll try to get you in. Otherwise, you can also buy a ticket. It's pretty inexpensive. I think it's on sale for $99 right now from $299. We have View 3 as well coming up and Modern React coming up too. We do a lot of really fun events. So we have monthly mentoring for women in tech. That happens every single month. So if you are a woman in tech or know a woman in tech and just want a place to hang out for an hour, you can always come join us and have some fun. State of RxJS is coming up as well this April. And then we also have Angular office hours, monthly mentoring women in tech again in May, and then State of Headless CMS. You can also tweet at this.media if you feel like a specific headless CMS should be included. My name's Tracy. You can follow me on Twitter at Lady Elite. I love talking all things JavaScript, so I'm always happy to chat and hang out. And then I'm joined by my co-host, Rob.
Yeah, my name is Rob Osell. I'm a software architect and team lead here at ThisThought, also host of our Modern Web podcast and frequent host of these events as well. So I'm really happy to be able to join this one.
Yes, anything I can rope Rob into. And we have quite a few awesome panelists from the Svelte community. Hopefully y'all recognize them. Yeah, we can go ahead and start with Scott. Scott, do you want to intro yourself?
Hi, everyone. Yep, sure. So the slide says it all, really. So developer relations engineer at Storyblock, headless CMS. I organised the London Svelte Society meetups. And that's it for me. I've been happily plugging away at Svelte for the last couple of years now. So it's really awesome to be on a panel with all these other awesome people as well.
Yes. Are you looking for speakers?
Always looking for speakers, yeah. I sent a tweet this afternoon. We've got a couple of people lined up as well.
Yay. Oh my God, amazing. Okay, and next, Brittany.
Yeah, that's for sure. We're always looking for speakers, and I am also looking for speakers. I'm the co-founder of the Svelte Sirens, and I co-host Svelte Radio with Kevin, Sean, and Anthony. And I'm a software engineer at Provi. I work on the design systems there, and yeah, that's pretty much what I've been doing lately, and always looking to help out with the community. I love the Svelte community. It's just one of the best places around.
Love it. And Jeff.
Yeah, hey everyone, I'm Jeff. I'm a senior software engineer at Ordergroove, an e-commerce startup, and also one of the core Svelte maintainers. I also blog quite a bit about Svelte and other stuff. And before my current job, I worked at Alaska Airlines, where I introduced Svelte for some of our microsites there. And I'm not currently looking for speakers.
Well, that's amazing. It's cool to hear that Alaska Airlines is using Svelte. That's really awesome. Okay, next up, Kevin.
Yeah, hi. So I'm Kevin. I kind of run Svelte Society. I co-founded it, and it's kind of my thing. I am also a host at Svelte Radio with Brittany, Sean, and Anthony. And I also organize Svelte Summit, which is a twice yearly conference for Svelte-only stuff. Next one's coming up in a month.
Nice. Yep. Exciting. Okay, is it sveltesummit.com?
Yep.
Cool. Okay, well, everyone buy tickets today. Are you looking for speakers?
It's free. No,
oh, yay!
So we just closed CFPs. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you. And Simon.
Yeah, my name is Simon Holthausen. I'm a software engineer at Vercel, and I work on Svelte as a full-time maintainer. Thanks to Vercel. I've been working on Svelte now since I think almost 3 years. First hobby, now full-time, and really grateful to be here.
And I think it's so great to see like more projects, more companies like supporting full-time open source work. So thank you, Vercel, for sponsoring Simon and other companies. Please do the same.
Do you want to talk about the new person while we're on that subject that they just hired?
We can,
Dominic.
Dominic, yeah.
Yeah.
The one and only Dominic Anyway. Just joined Vercel, and he will be joining the Svelte team and bring his expertise to work on. He's a stone cold expert on all things like performance, the DOM. He knows his way around these things. He built a great editor when he still was at Meta, a WYSIWYG editor. And it's really great to have him, and I can't wait to see how to brainstorm with him and put all these things to work and get Svelte 5 going.
Oh my God.
Wait, you're gonna skip a
Whoa.
number? What is this?
We're not going to skip a number.
Is it an announcement?
No, Svelte
Spoilers.
4 is spoilers. Yeah. Rich teased it already. I think, or announced it in one of the chats with Kev, where he said that Svelte 4 will mainly be a maintenance release where we we're going to raise the minimum required node versions. If you're using Typescript, we're going to raise those versions, do some very tiny breaking changes, but not many. But mainly it's about internally bringing up the repository up to date, converting it into a monorepo, using PNPM change sets, and so on. So many of these things are going to happen under the hood. And so, Svelte 4 will be mainly that. And then it's like clean deck. And then we're going to start working on Svelte 5 right away.
It always makes me laugh because I feel like, the community is always like, we want new features. And then you give them new features and they're like, we want stability. And then you give them stability and they're like, we're bored. We want new features. It's like, make up your mind, y'all. Nobody can be satisfied here.
Yeah, it's a trade-off for sure. Yeah.
But that's why you have 4 and 5. So
yeah. And we're really trying to keep breaking changes minimal, especially for version 4, but also for version 5. We want to keep as many things working as possible. And where we do introduce new things, we want to have a migration period where possibly both things work at the same time and you can opt into the new behavior and so on. So the details are not fleshed out yet because we first have to brainstorm what Svelte 5 will all entail, what's going to be in there specifically. But this is the general direction.
I feel like our core team does a really good job of providing those migration paths when we do have the breaking changes, which is something that a lot of frameworks, you do get breaking changes and you either get stuck in these same old things or you do these things that will make your framework better. But our team does provide really easy paths to make your app up to the latest and greatest standards, which I love.
Yeah, we had a lot of practice with that for Svelte, with the development of SvelteKit. So
It's finally out now, though.
Yeah, it is. But I mean, some beta version changes were really big and really breaking, and so the Svelte changes won't be as big and breaking as those are. But we really learned a lot about providing auto migration where possible, writing up cohesive migration docs, and I think this is really, really important to do.
Well, do we want to pick up from there and help with the brainstorming? I know this is a weird place to jump in, but if we're opening the can on Svelte 5, are there features that people are excited about or would love to see added to the list? I know I saw some demos from the recent video of like Vue Transitions API stuff, and that seems interesting if some of that was to land and be integrated well. But what about anybody else? Are there any features that you're hoping to see get added in the future versions?
Ooh.
I don't know if
Wow.
I can post links, but we have the 4x milestones for 4.0. I don't think there's anything for 5 yet, right? But I have one on there, so I'll put the link in the private chat. Maybe y'all can share it. But that's to the 4x milestones. And then one that I'm kind of excited for is the each blocks, and they'll handle non-array like iterables, so we can put things that aren't arrays into the each block now,
Right.
or
Yep.
when 4 comes out,
Did
maybe.
did the switch case make it into the?
Oh,
No.
No,
Yeah, I think
okay.
that's
That was
being
just I
discussed.
saw Rich playing about that a while back, and yeah.
Yeah, I've been doing these YouTube shorts for our YouTube channel, and I brought forth this old clip of Rich like trying out a switch syntax thing from like years
so
ago.
you like just made it happen. You were gonna just spark it into existence.
I mean, with YouTube Shorts, you got to do the clickbait.
Oh, I
It's the
know.
only way. Unfortunately, no. I mean, the switch case is interesting. I think someone made a preprocessor for that actually, so you can actually try it out if you just install this preprocessor and put it into the Svelte config. Not sure. Probably not going to work well with the language tools, but maybe it will. I don't know. But yeah, you could use it today. It just like what it does under the hood, it just converts it to an if else statement, right?
Well, and switch wouldn't necessarily be breaking. Like that doesn't necessarily have to be kept for Svelte 5 if it's something the maintainers want to pursue. I think the Svelte 5 stuff I'm excited about is just we have a lot of ideas floating around about making things like more performant, making things smaller. Like Svelte is already plenty fast and like performant, but it's way out of my my headspace. But I know Rich and other people on the team are thinking about ways where we can just take that even further, which should be interesting.
Yeah, I what I would like to see is like some kind of way of compile. I think I mentioned this a couple of times on the podcast already, but like I'd like to see a way for the compiler to look at multiple files, basically, just like bring it all together into one file and then kind of do some magic there, figure out what it can, I don't know.
Instead of going file by file by file,
Yeah.
like actually using it as a whole code base so they could interact together.
Yeah. I don't know how easy that is. It sounds very hard, but
Yeah, I
I
don't know
think it
if
would
necessarily
slow it
follow
down.
like multiple files. Because you can already like reference an external style sheet, but is this more? Like,
yeah. So I just mean like basically just like looking at the whole code base rather than just one file at a time. I assume you could figure out some kind of optimizations from that.
Yeah, I do know there's a few things where it's like, well, this is hard to do because we compile component by component. So
Right. Yeah, maybe there are features that are unlocked by that as well. Who knows?
And it's very interesting because before I started working on Svelte full time, my full time job was mainly about Angular, and so I'm still like closely following the developments of Angular, and it's interesting because they sort of do the opposite. They have started with a like compiler who knows the whole world, and have gradually going towards a compiler who's more around per file, so that they can get out of benefits out of that, like more granular recompilation and so on. And so it's really a trade-off what you want to do. I think if we were to look at the whole file graph, I think it would be purely a app optimization thing. So like, okay, we see that this component is always called with this property, so we can like make this more statically. But apart from that, I'd be wary of like introducing too many whole app interdependency things, because there's a lovely simplicity to like having only to look at one file to determine the outcome.
Makes sense.
Here we go, Henri.
Remember-
Trolling the comments here.
Yeah, I saw in the comments someone was saying they heard something about a general animations overhaul. I haven't heard anything about that. Is that
No.
something that's in the pipeline?
Rich has talked about it. I don't think anything concrete has been done. But like with the web animations API, like does that unlock anything
Oh,
for
the
transitions?
page transitions. That was like something that just happened recently, right?
Yeah, I think Rob mentioned view transitions. I don't know. I haven't quite grasped if that would fit into the Svelte component model well, because it's kind of a
Yeah.
completely different concept. It's something I've done a lot of experimentation with in SvelteKit, but I don't know. But yeah, I think the animations overhaul is like web animation API. Does that? Can we do anything with that in Svelte?
Yeah, I think that it's also a bit about like the way that maybe it's not about the animations features, but more like the transitions. I think there's been some talk about maybe modernizing those a bit. Don't exactly remember though.
I think there has. I don't know. I think a lot of things about like that have just been like idly chatted about, but I don't think there's anything concrete on them yet.
Yeah. When Rust, by the way.
Yeah.
Kev,
Well,
was it?
since the Rust Foundation debacle, maybe not anymore. I don't know.
Oh, I haven't heard about that. I need to check it out.
I haven't heard much about that either, but some people are complaining that the wording on there, whatever, is too strict. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a really restrictive clause where I mean, some places do it, like GraphQL. You have to use their logo in a certain way, but I think Rust was like, you can't have Rust in a course name, or you can't have Rust in titles of things. Yeah, Brittany's face says it all. Yeah, it just seemed really. How to enforce it, I don't know, but it does seem really restrictive, and it's not. I don't think it's going to help them much, to be honest. I mean, I guess it's just helping. What's the word for it? Sort of preserve their, the brand. Let's say,
Their
but
brand, yeah.
Yeah, but I just think it just seems a bit restrictive on what you can and can't do with the name Rust and their logo. But yeah, how it's enforced is another question as well. What?
Yeah, and that aside, I also think that JavaScript, there's still a lot of things we can probably optimize. So I don't know. Recently, like Vite, the recent performance improvements, or one of the Preact guys doing an article series on how he optimized certain things in the ecosystem, really show that there's still like plenty of room to optimize the code we write for JavaScript to get things running faster. So it doesn't necessarily have to be Rust to be fast.
Okay, so just for confirmation, not considering Rust for the compiler. That's right, Simon?
No.
Yeah.
Well, Rich has even said, right, like the compile step is not a bottleneck in Svelte right now. Like, so
you do that at build time as well. So like
exactly, yeah.
So I guess one other thing caused a bit of controversy was not using TypeScript in Svelte. So I guess we should talk about that, Simon, right?
Yeah, I honestly didn't think this would like start such a controversy, and I don't know, maybe some of these things were also around that things got lost in translation. So when like the background story for those who don't know, Rich said that the Svelte repository, which we will do for Svelte 4 already, will transition from being written in TypeScript to be written in JavaScript. And then people were like freaking out, where are our types going? Where's the type safety going? And so to clarify that, we're getting rid of TypeScript as in .ts files, but we're not getting rid of TypeScript as in type checking. So we're still going to have our code fully type checked, the same level of type sameness will be there as before. We're just going to do it differently through JS docs. So JS doc is a API through where you through JS doc comments, annotate your JavaScript code. So you can do like add type string to tell, hey, this variable where the comment is on is of type string. And you get, like, you can almost do every type construct you can do in TypeScript, you can do that way through JS doc. And where you don't want to or you can't do it, you can still like go through to DTS files, like type definition files, and do all your interface type declarations in there, and then like import these type declarations inside your JavaScript through these JS docs. So we get the same level of type safety we get through TypeScript. The difference is that we no longer need a compiled step to put out the JavaScript bundle. So it's just, we can ship the raw JavaScript files written as is. And this has a bunch of benefits for us, because for one, we don't need to ship any source maps, which will make the bundle a lot smaller. And second, which is also very important for, like, from a library author perspective, is when you're like getting a bug report or something and you have to debug. It's super easy to go into your node modules folder and do the changes, do some playing around, debugging right in the code. And when you found a fix, you can just copy paste it over as is into your project and apply the fix there, because the code is literally the same. So there's no indirection involved. And this will make debugging so much faster and easier. And we're not just saying that, we've experienced it firsthand with SvelteKit. So SvelteKit was written in TypeScript for a while, then we transitioned to this JS doc style. And it's like there's no build step involved for SvelteKit. It's just like put out the raw files to NPM. And this has made debugging issues so much easier and faster. And so, yeah, this way JS doc is used for us. And yeah, I have to admit that authoring the types with JS doc is a little bit cumbersome sometimes. So you have to type a bit more. That's true. So if I love TypeScript. So if I would if I would build an application with Svelte, I'd still choose TypeScript. But at that point, I know I have to bundle everything and have a build step anyway, so I just, well, use TypeScript. But for the use case of authoring a library, having no build step is really, really beneficial and far outweighs the drawbacks of having to type a bit more.
I agree with everything you said. I think the benefits far outweigh the negatives of it. And it does feel a little bit cumbersome, but I've been thinking about this at work. I'm building a component library and we're writing it in TypeScript. But then if you want to debug anything, if you want to throw anything in a REPL, or if you want, even Storybook does not read the TypeScript types. So the JavaScript, the JS doc types, it will read for you and auto document components, where it won't do that with TypeScript. So I'm considering like transferring everything over to JS doc too.
I can't be the only sort of developer, though, that went through that cycle where we saw the article because it got linked around everywhere, or, you know, whatever. We were like, wait, what? And then we all sort of, where there has to be an answer for this. And then we learned how potent JS doc was now with all the integrations. I think a lot of us sort of went, oh, didn't know you could do that. That's really cool. I mean, I know that the drama train kept going, and I know Rich said his mentions were just destroyed for a while, but I think a lot of us learned something that day.
Yeah. So to clarify for those watching, like you can still use TypeScript in Svelte and SvelteKit.
Yeah.
Because that's where
right.
people
So there's
people
no
think,
visible, like from a user perspective, when you're using SvelteKit or Svelte, there's no observable difference when using it. It's just when you like commit code to Svelte or SvelteKit itself, then you'll see the difference.
And even if you're using JS doc for your types. You've still got TypeScript installed for if you like spinning up a new SvelteKit project. So you can get. Does that help with the annotations, Simon? I've used it like once or twice, and I usually use TypeScript, to be honest. But
Yeah, if you want
because
to
of what
have,
you said was just it can be quite cumbersome to find the types. That's just why I've been going with TypeScript recently.
Just use
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off
ChatGPT.
there.
yeah, I mean, as I said, from a like if you're building an actual app with Svelte or SvelteKit, I'd totally also go with TypeScript because yeah, it feels a bit more natural to type that way.
Okay.
And so yeah, I'd still go with that. And regarding why TypeScript is still installed, if you go for JS doc, it's that the TypeScript compiler is needed to type check the JS doc. So that's also TypeScript, which does this.
I have a question on like the Svelte package command. If you have TypeScript installed, will that use TypeScript to generate the types?
I was just
That's
thinking
right.
this,
Yeah. So it yeah, that's right. It like basically under the hood, it first transforms Svelte to something TypeScript can understand, and then hands it off to TypeScript to generate the type definition files, and those are then placed as these .svelte.ts files in your dist folder. So that's why you need TypeScript.
Okay. So I've got a couple of Svelte packages myself, and they're in TypeScript. So is that, to keep it in TypeScript, move over to JSDoc? Is it, or just leave it where
I
it is?
don't see I mean, personally, whatever floats your boat. I mean, keep it as is. I mean, you have the compilation step. Like the preprocessor strips all the types, strips the lang tag. You get as an output the DTS files next to your Svelte files. So you still have the type definitions. So I personally don't see why you should now switch. I think it's when you have like a mono repository and you want to have like live reload and stuff, maybe something that Brittany has, like, then it probably starts to make sense to think about, okay, maybe I want to go buildless. But yeah, other than that, I'd go with TypeScript.
So we come full circle.
Yeah.
Back to TypeScript.
TypeScript is still close to my heart. It's best thing that happened to JavaScript.
No Rust,
Getting
no TypeScript.
rid
We're
of JavaScript is the best thing that happened to JavaScript.
Rob, I think you're muted.
He is, yes.
Thank you.
I saw those lips moving real fast.
So I thought that was what was funny about that situation too, is because it really doesn't seem to in any way change compatibility with anything that exists. Like you said, it's going to be invisible. But when asked about it too, Kevin, with you, Rich couldn't help but say, well, if it was up to me, I would just only use JS docs. So it is funny that, Simon's kind of the reverse version. It is really just kind of what, use what your team knows and what your team prefers. And luckily you don't have to worry about what the library is using in this scenario. It will meet you where you are. All right. Next topic, SvelteKit. I was actually a little taken aback to realize that it had, we're 4 months into the official launch of it. It honestly feels like it's been a mainstay and solid for quite a while. How has the launch been? Yeah, and it runs really quick. How has the launch been for you all, for your teams, for the community members that you've talked to? What has that experience been so far with the launch?
I mean, I could go first from like a community perspective. So everyone that I talk to that try it are very, very enthused. Is that the word? Very, very happy and very excited about using it. Especially like the form actions and the and the data loading, kind of the way that it works in SvelteKit, rather than doing all of this stuff that you have to do in some other frameworks where you have to like attach event listeners to everything and then do the fetching on the client and all this stuff. It kind of simplifies a lot of things. You kind of can get rid of a lot of code by just using these features.
That's
and
the
once
Svelte
people
way.
actually try them, yeah, exactly. Just get rid of code. That's the way. Less code means less bugs. So
I still use the button example, like the declarative and imperative examples, and then the Svelte button versus the React button with the click count, just so you can see the difference in the code.
Are you talking about the famous meme?
The famous meme?
There's a use state meme out there that like I can't explain it.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I could just I just thought of the for some reason the Daisy UI meme where they've got a Tailwind button and like all these classes, and then they've got the Daisy UI button, which is just one class. Something like that, I guess. Is that what you mean? Where it's just
I think
code.
I was talking about like the reactivity in Svelte versus React, and there's a meme, and it's like this is all you have to do is like declare a variable, and then in React you have to do like the use state. And
yes, yeah. I mean that's exactly what like several talks I've done there, and it's literally that. With like with Svelte, it's like 4 or 5 lines, and with React, it's 12, 15. But yeah, you do write a lot less code, a lot less code, and it's a lot closer to the platform as well. The platform being the web browser. So I found since using Svelte, when I was in React before, my sort of HTML sort of knowledge atrophied really badly. And then sort of coming into Svelte, I was like, I've got to use, browser APIs, and I can just use that stuff, straight in there. So there's a lot less faff. Sorry, faff is...
This is another thing that just went around.
An English colloquialism for unnecessary things you need to do something.
Yeah, so I kind of find that, like I said, when people try it, they really enjoy it, and people are like, I know a lot of people here in Stockholm that are really like looking for Svelte jobs, even while they're doing their other kind of stuff. So it's one of those things where I think as soon as someone posts a job, everybody jumps on it because everyone wants to use Svelte.
But I don't think there's a lack of Svelte jobs out there. I just went through like a big looking for a job process and like found lots of Svelte jobs out there. So it's like bigger than ever.
I mean, that's great.
Yeah, I mean, going back to the SvelteKit for a moment, I think like with that hitting 1.0, we're also seeing a lot more excitement that it's stable now. People feel good about using it. And I think, just recently, actually, it's been a few months since the launch. Rich has been working a lot on learn.svelte.dev, like the official SvelteKit tutorial that's very close to being like covering everything. And I think that'll just be an even bigger push into teaching people how to use SvelteKit, how to use this system that we designed and redesigned. And now it's like how it all fits together and how cohesive it is.
Yeah, speaking of that, he's doing a front-end masters workshop tomorrow on Svelte, and then Thursday on SvelteKit. It's free live if you're watching it, and then it'll go onto their course platform after that.
Part of the reason learn.svelte.dev has been finished.
A priority.
Deadline-driven development, for sure.
Yes.
That's amazing. Just like so much good Svelte content. I remember when I first tried to start it using Svelte like a few years ago, it was like, not done with this part of the docs yet. I'm like, I can't get going. No, that's amazing though. I think the documentation, as all open source maintainers will tell you, if you want to get into open source, help with the docs. So I'm sure Svelte team, y'all feel the same way too. But it's a great way to get started.
That's half the benefit and the beauty of Svelte, right?
Yeah.
Is just that the docs site and the REPL for playing around in it is like, I mean, kind of blows your mind for the examples you're able to throw together, and kind of replaces the need for a lot of tool systems and tool chains that people were using, things like Code Sandbox and other things for other frameworks. It's just very convenient.
Yeah, I think two of the things that play really well for Svelte are that it's very simple to understand. If you're coming from HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, you can understand what is going on in the code. There's not a lot of overhead. And the things that are more Svelte, you can take the tutorial and get through that in 2 hours and learn the more Svelte specific stuff. And it's all there for you. It's in the REPL. You can play around with it. You can use it and learn the Svelte stuff, but it's very web platform as you're writing it.
There's some really useful examples in there as well. Right at the bottom, isn't there? Really, really useful examples for doing, all the usual sort of things you'd want to do. Svelte window was one I was using the other day. It's great for, managing like a scroll position on a page and stuff like that. There's loads of really handy stuff on there.
Yeah, I think the REPL is one huge component of why Svelte has gotten so big. It's not just easy, but it's also like the social kind of fact that you can share REPLs. You can show someone just send them a link, and this is how you do it in Svelte, and people can see it right there.
Remember to title your REPLs as well. If you're going to put a REPL, if you're going to do anything, title it as well, because if I'm searching for an issue, I usually find a Svelte REPL.
Called Hello World.
They are super handy.
Oh, because that's how people give the issues, an example of the issue.
Exactly. Yeah.
They get crawled by Google, so you'll find them Googling for stuff.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, I think the REPL is. It was a necessity when Svelte started, right? Because React and Vue, you can just throw a script tag on, use CodePen or whatever. Svelte had a build step, so shortening that time to be able to play around with it and understand it really helped. If you had to clone something and start up your terminal, I don't know if we would have seen the same excitement or adoption.
Definitely not, right?
I'm
I don't think
really excited about one of the hackathon submissions too, that they're implementing the web containers into kind of the REPL, so you can use learn.svelte.dev. You can do SvelteKit in the browser and use the full node ecosystem. It was amazing.
I think everyone's. When did it's Paolo, isn't it? When did that get announced? Was it literally
2
today?
days ago?
Yeah, it was
2 days ago. Okay.
Yeah, he posted on Twitter.
It's going to be exciting with the hackathon, seeing everything come out of that.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, we're just at the end sprint of a hackathon submission period. So I think the last day. No, not too late. I think the last day is the 17th. Yeah. And then we're going to announce winners at Svelte Summit, hopefully, unless we get 1,000 extra submissions and we don't have time. But I think it should be enough.
And how many submissions are there at the moment, Kev?
So I think 160 or 170. So there's still a chance to join in and even win probably if you're.
What's the website again?
So it's hack.sveltesociety.dev. And you just log in with GitHub and submit, basically.
So I'm honestly blown away by both the quantity and the quality of the submissions. So I look into the Hackathon channel on Discord every now and then someone posts a new library or link to some website, and it's also always so nice, full of good stuff. So I think that there's really going to come some good things out of this. Will be hard to pick the winners.
Very.
So we had a question from the chat, which I think is interesting because I think there's some room to discuss around it, which is, people, I think, maybe a number of the people that are watching this aren't fully familiar with Svelte or SvelteKit, but, they've heard of SvelteKit. They've obviously maybe heard of Remix and Next and React server components, and it just feels like every time you turn around, there's another example of this. And I think people are curious, is SvelteKit attempting to do something in an entirely different way than those other things are? How should people understand the differences? I mean, I know it's different because it's Svelte, but like, are there tremendous differences that people should understand? Are they making a significant trade-off if they're taking this route versus using a Next or whatever, something like that?
Yeah, I mean,
Where
I
do you
think
put
Svelte
this
and
storm?
SvelteKit, like everything is exploring the same territory right now. Like a lot of frameworks are exploring like server and client. How do we, for a while they were treated maybe as two separate entities, and how do we like make them more interconnected, more tightly, so that it's easy to use server data and get server data in your components. I think Svelte does things differently in a few ways. So if you haven't used SvelteKit before, like the main thing with SvelteKit is you have a load function in a separate file, and that defines how the data is loaded for your page. Distinct to that approach is that, so like Remix and Solid Start, they also have a similar loader concept, but the loader is defined in the same file as your page. So you're kind of mixing server and client code in the same file. I think that's really interesting. Right now, it's not something we've prioritized. We're still kind of seeing how things shake out there. Does the mental model hold up if you're mixing server and client like that? Do you understand what's server and what's client?
Didn't we take that back? Like, because we had the load function inside of a context module in the client code, but it was like,
We had the client side load function. We never had like
that's
the
true.
server code running on the server in the same file as your
Yeah, gotcha.
component. So that's one major difference. And then I think the whole React server component thing, again, like similar space, but it's still very different, because if I understand them correctly, they actually return, like they render the component on the server, and then you fetch that asynchronously and it like slots into the right place, which is different from Svelte, which is like calling a JSON endpoint and then giving your component that JSON data. But yeah, I mean, definitely a lot of experimentation happening in the space. I think the Svelte team has kind of been, we're opinionated in some ways, and then some ways we're just like, let's wait and see how it shakes out, see like what people like, what people understand and really connect with, and then we can steal the good stuff if it turns out to be a new standard. But yeah.
So just going back a couple of steps to when we're asking people how, Kev, how people are receiving Svelte and SvelteKit. Can we talk about the changes that happened in August time last year, and what happened then? Because a lot of people were using SvelteKit before all these routine changes happened, and I was just along for the ride, getting to know how the new sort of routing API worked, and just refactoring quite a lot of projects to work with that. So I'm not sure who actually made is it called Svelte Migrate? Who made that tool, but that really helped.
Isn't it Simon?
And was that you,
Yeah,
Simon?
we created that specifically. So it was me and Rich who did this. Yeah.
So
what?
for
Joy of
Go on,
Code
Kevin.
said, "Don't trigger people."
Yeah, I was going to say, like, for those that didn't use SvelteKit
Yeah.
before this change, the routing basically worked a bit like if you've used Astro or I think Astro does this. So instead of
Yeah.
having like a folder as you do now in SvelteKit, you could have like maybe like an about.svelte, and that would be your /about route.
I think
Nowadays-
Next.js was like this before too.
Yeah.
Now they've migrated that new app folder is different, but
Yeah.
Yeah, good times. It was just from what Jeff was saying about the mental model of having client side and server side data. I think the file notation really helps with that, and it really helps when you're trying to explain to people what each one does.
Yeah, and just the fact of like if there's a .server in your file name, it won't run on the client. Like you can't even import it, right?
yeah,
Which is a very nice fail-safe.
it does make it easier to like separate everything in your head and put your code in the right places and know what goes where and what's running where. Make sure you're not exposing variables to the wrong place.
That's probably one of the bigger things that came out of that routing change thing, where you could move a lot of your logic from the client into the server server endpoints or load functions and form actions. So it more neatly, like the Svelte files are now only for visual stuff, kind of, almost, and the logic, the business logic, and the other stuff that's in your server files, which is great. Like, very good separation of concerns in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, in general, are people, I guess it's kind of a biased audience here, but how are you feeling about the separation of concerns, right? Because some people will be like, okay, yeah, server code in one file, client code in one file, then it's very clear to me what runs where. And then some people might say, oh, that's a false distinction, just like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript all in separate files was. Like, I want them to be together. Like, how are you
It's a fair
viewing those
point.
trade-offs?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see all the exploration in the space right now, and like some people like going the other direction. We took a step and said, okay, we're going to separate things more clearly because we found that is easier to reason about. And in other communities, people are like, no, we want to co-locate things even more inside one component. Remix co-locates the loader inside the same file. Other frameworks have now special functions which only extract a specific part within the code, not determined by function name, but by invocation of this method out into the server. And so it's really interesting to see how this all plays out. I think that in general, there have been some years of like relative stability within the frameworks, and I feel like the past like 6 months have been very much with experimentation, change of APIs, and how do you do things, React server components now getting pushed, and so on. It's really interesting to see how things shake out. And I don't even think that there needs to be like has to be or will be one clear winner, because I think fundamentally, like code is like a language, and we have different dialects, and some languages or APIs speak more to people than others. And so I think there's always room for the different styles to coexist.
And the community will go one way, and then they'll go back the other way, and we'll just every few years rotate.
It's like a pendulum, right?
Yes.
Yeah. PHP is cool again now. Yeah.
Somebody did mention
Kinda
PHP in the comments.
Said that, yeah. Sebastian said something that kind of like brought me back to what Kevin was saying earlier about the compiler being more for the whole file system. Like with the store syntax, we can use the $ syntax within the Svelte files. But then once you bring that out to JavaScript, it feels a little foreign with having to use the methods and do all of that. Would maybe making that compiler like on the file system, would that help that syntax? Could we use maybe the $ syntax and other?
Are you talking about this one, Brittany?
Yeah.
Yeah, this one's on my mind, in the back of my head. Every now and then I think about how this could look like to have something like of the Svelte short syntax outside of Svelte components, how this could look like. And I don't have good, like, it's not past the nebulous thoughts state, but I'd really like to like have something there someday. So yeah, it's a tough nut to crack, but yeah, definitely on our minds.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
I was just say right now you can't get much simpler. Like our current reactivity optimizes for the component authoring experience. Like you can't get much simpler than count equals 1, count plus plus. And I think, yeah, bringing that into the other external files, it's the mental model again. It starts like, what is under Svelte's rules and what is not? It's just a very tricky problem, but
yeah,
definitely something we're thinking about.
I was going to say the kind of the same thing. Like it'd be a bit weird to have that in your like JS files. Just like Like how do you actually know that Svelte is going to compile this file in particular? Do we introduce something like SJS or something, Svelte JavaScript? Like
use Svelte
what
at
do
the
you
top of
do?
the file.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I mean the core issue we're thinking about, right, is like you write your stuff one way in components and then a different way if you have to refactor or extract anything. So I think, maybe there's things we could do, more primitives that make that transition more painless. But a trade-off. I think part of the reason Svelte got so popular is the very simple state management model. So how do we preserve that while also
Yeah.
helping
So we
refactor?
definitely don't want to give that up because, there's an argument about, okay, as soon as you transition stuff out of the Svelte file, you lose some of that convenience and short, concise syntax. But for me, that's not a reason to do the opposite and bloaten the syntax within Svelte files. So I think doing that to somehow unify the models would be a mistake. I'd rather have a very easy model which I can use 80-90% of the time, and if I need to extract that out into something which looks a little bit different.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't want to jeopardize anything about that syntax because it is part of the secret sauce. I mean, I think it's interesting both with the compiler and with the reactivity that I think that's the part of the reason that Svelte gets sort of grouped as people group things into, oh, there was Vue and Angular and React, and now there's Svelte and Solid and Quick. It's like Svelte was out in 2016. I think
really
some of
quite
that
old.
grouping is because you see these frameworks now playing in these spaces that Svelte was sort of just sitting in for all those years. Reactivity being one of them. We talked to Ben Lesh quite a bit, the author of RxJS, or at least one of the core maintainers of RxJS. And, he says that, Svelte's one of the few versions of this reactivity that's just out of the box, can be integrated into observables, which is really cool. And I mean, now you see all this stuff, everybody playing with signals as a way to do state management or to change the way that state management goes. Like, how have y'all been, conceiving of or thinking of that sort of development as this has sort of been brought back now as a key piece of discussion? I think Angular just announced their version of implementation of it. Preact has it now. How has that been?
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to watch, and it's definitely on our minds to see, can we somehow incorporate some of those things? Is the Signal API superior to the Store API which we have now? Or are they things which can live together in peace, so to speak, side by side, can use both, whatever fits best? Can we maybe use the Signals API somewhat under the hood so that you don't you author your Svelte components as you normally do today, but under the hood it's compiled differently to use Signals to be more performant. So stuff like that is on our minds, and we have to see how it plays out. But it's definitely something we're looking into. In all of that, we think the interoperability is always a core concern for us. So the observables example, that you can just use RxJS as is, which is great, especially for me. Like I said, I come from Angular, so I have a heavy RxJS background. And so when I got into Svelte, this was really nice to see, I can now just take all my RxJS experience and just take it with me and apply it as is to Svelte. And so I think that's a big plus, this kind of interoperability, that you don't have to do everything in a certain opinionated way. Rather, there are certain points where you can integrate neatly with your existing knowledge or existing libraries. And so whatever we do or change, be it visibly or under the hood, we will definitely take care of not losing this kind of interoperability.
So I think somebody followed up in chat, I'm assuming based on listening to you explain that, which is maybe a lot of people were just sort of holding them signals double equals store. Kind of, they're roughly the same conceptual idea. So somebody asked the question, are they different concepts, or are they just different versions of the same, different APIs for the same concept? Like, how should people understand this as if they're a Svelte user and they're listening to this conversation going on?
Yeah, they are closely related. They are not necessarily the same. I mean, the API even between signals is very, very different. Like if you look at how Preact does it, they have a dot value and you can mutate that. Solid.js has the separated with a getter and a setter. Angular will have an object which you like is a function which you invoke to get the current value, and you have to call methods on it to change it. So the API is like varying widely between signals. The API between stores is also like kind of varying. There's a more unified API around that, which is that there's a store has a subscribed method, and that gets you like the current value, and whenever a new value is pushed, you get notified of that. And so the API around that has settled more, I'd say, whereas Signals is a lot more exploration, different kinds of APIs right now. And usability wise, it's also a little bit different, because with Signals you have like this primitive, and everything is like composed of functions which you call in a certain way. And with stores you have things like you wrap a store and say, this is like, now I want to map the values that are pushed into it into something different. And yeah, I'd say from a user perspective, the APIs are just different. I can't really explain this succinctly, as you might notice. And under the hood, there are also some differences, but mainly about push or pull. Like, is the subscriber notified eagerly on every value change? How are values propagated through the subscription chain, and so on? And there's a lot of like stuff. I also like have to read up on some of this stuff. It's not like that I'm an expert.
It is very heady. Yeah.
We had like a 1 hour podcast on Modern Web about Signals. So hot takes all over.
Yeah, I sat between Ben Lesh and Ryan Carniato and tried to pretend like I understood half of what was being said.
That's how I feel.
Just like thoughtful nodding.
Those two in the room and talk Signals versus observables. Oh yeah,
it was a very passionate conversation.
There's a good question in the chat. Someone asking about how we found out about Svelte. Where's that gone? It's disappeared now. Oh, there it is. Yeah. So I'll go first. I was looking for something which was faster than what I was currently using. I'd known about Svelte for a while, and just around the time I was looking, there was an announcement from Rich Harris about the V1 release of Sapper. And if everyone's familiar with that, it's basically there was no V1 release of Sapper, and that's when he announced SvelteKit. And I was completely blown away with, I think it was using Snowpack at the time, but I was completely blown away with how fast it was. Rich just set his autosave settings on VS Code, and he was like effectively coding, and it was updating real time. And I was like, oh, okay, I've got to try this, and completely rewrote my blog in SvelteKit soon after that, and was very lucky enough to be asked to make a lot of content on it for who I was currently working with at the time. And I haven't looked back since. It's been just over 2 years now, I think. So, and I can't. I mean, I can still read React, but do I have to?
I feel very similar. I had started learning to code, and I started learning React, and when I had built a Gatsby blog, I just finished this course, and I listened to Syntax FM and heard Scott Tolinsky gush about Svelte for months, and I'm like, what is this thing? Like, I'm new to web development, I have no idea what this is. And so I checked it out, and I was just blown away by the simplicity of it. Like, it felt like vanilla HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and I was like, okay, I've got to try out in something. So I rewrote the Gatsby blog I just built in Sapper at the time. And I also have not looked back. It's just been constant for almost 4 years. Just love it.
It's kind of, it seems like it's the same story for all of us. We just try it once and then we never go back.
Yeah.
I discovered it back in 2019 when version 3 was released. Found it on Hacker News, if I remember correctly. And I was also working in React at the time, and then I was just like, nope, just gonna drop this, and there was no podcast, so I had to start a podcast and all this other stuff. So, so I had stuff to do anyway, right?
Yeah, for me, I was looking at my job. We were about to build a new product and wanted to use a front-end framework for it. So we got all the component niceties, all the modern front-end stuff. But, wasn't gelling with React, was working, not everyone on my team was like super familiar with the front end. And I'm like, if I put them in React, which React's great, no hate against React, but like it would be a steeper learning curve than something like Svelte. This was back late 2019, maybe early 2020. And then also like the thing we were building was going to be used on airport Wi-Fi. So the fact that Svelte had a smaller bundle size just made it a more easy choice for our use case.
It's my favorite way to test web performance. If I can like go on a site and it's actually useful on airplane Wi-Fi, then they're doing something right. But no sites I visit are good on airplane Wi-Fi. Yeah, none, zero.
Yeah, Svelte kind of pulls you in by the promises of great performance, and then you stick around because of the developer experience.
Yeah, for me, it also was totally the developer experience. So my getting into its story was that I did my previous company does a yearly hackathon, and so in I think it was 2020, we had one, and I thought, I've heard of this thing called Svelte now several times, so I'm just going to try it out. And I had much experience with Angular, but I had like virtually no experience with Svelte. So it was like on the day that the hackathon started and I was doing the front end part of it, I was opening up the tutorial and I was like, immediately it clicked for me. It was like so easy to get going, especially if you're coming from Angular. I think you can transfer a lot of knowledge you have right into Svelte. And so like the model, how it works, like you declare your state, and if you like do an equals, it updates the state. This is like similar in Angular. In Angular, you have RxJS observables, in Svelte you have the stores. And so I had immediate like points where I knew, oh, this I know, this is similar. But it was always like a tiny bit less code I had to write. It was more concise, more fun to write, which is not I still really like Angular, by the way. So this is not a hit on Angular. I just like Svelte better now. This is the way I got into Svelte, but I knew I couldn't use it on my daily job because I was in Angular projects, and there was no way we could like get our clients to do 180 and start using Svelte tomorrow. So I thought, how else can I stay in contact with it? And then COVID hit, and don't have much to do in the evenings. And so I thought, maybe I can like start contributing to Svelte, the repository itself. And so this is how it all started for me. And then I like picked up the language tools like the VS Code extension and so on. which was in a rough state back then. And so I picked that up and worked on it. And yeah, happy ever since.
Mine is a little weird in that I don't do regular production development in Svelte, but I've been interested in and followed it since the very early days because I loved following what Rich and like teams at the New York Times and what teams at like 538 did with data visualization. And I loved just following him for the different kind of ways that they were doing that. And I just love the idea of somebody building a framework that works for them and dog foods it and says, honestly, I hope you like it, but if you don't, it's what works best for me and my team and my use case. And I just thought that was super admirable to watch him just like stand up in Twitter and be very opinionated on what he thought would be right for a framework and where the platform should go. And at the end of the day, he wasn't necessarily trying to sell it. And maybe that's what drew a lot of people into, is that he wasn't necessarily trying to sell it. He just was trying to use it. At least that's what it's appeared like from the outside. I'm sure behind the scenes, things are always a little bit different, but from outwards, that's what it appeared like. And so, I've followed it since then. I think it's super fascinating. And it is great interesting that it was in a lot of ways proven to be years ahead of its time when it first came out. So
it's like the same conversation, because remember when it's like Ember and Angular and whatever, and people are like, React has been around since like, was it 2011 or something like that? It's been around for a while, y'all. So I don't know, maybe that's like the same trajectory of Svelte, right? Svelte's gonna win out because it's the oldest but still considered the new.
I don't think Rich can be anything but just like an honest, like upfront human being. Like he's just a great person and he can just stand his ground and be firm. And some of those are spicy takes, but that's just his opinion. And I love that about him. And I think that is something that sells Svelte to people, is that he's not trying to sell it to you. And that was something a lot of people worried about when Vercel hired him, and Simon, and now Dominic. And it's not become that. It's very much an open source community. It's a very small community feel, even though we're growing bigger and bigger every day. And it involves so many people and factors. And it's just, I think it's always going to be this like hometown feeling, if you can have that in a framework.
Well, and community matters too, right? Like y'all, even in this call, just saying like, yeah, we're not hating on Angular, we're not hating on React, I think like that. And yeah, I mean, coming from many communities and, loving Angular and kind of their inclusivity at, how they create inclusivity. It's great that you all are doing that, as leaders within the community too. It's really important.
An Angular sticker somewhere behind my head.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. Let's riff on that and take this question from chat, which is basically that they're remarking with the hackathon that we're trying to make the ecosystem bigger. Or do you have other ideas to make Svelte bigger? And I had, wanted to bring up the topic of the community because, again, sort of like the framework is grassroots and kind of has, I guess, the hometown feel is what we're calling it, small town feel. You have Svelte Society and all of its various branches. You have the Svelte Sirens. You have podcasts. You have Svelte Summit, which is coming up soon. There is a tremendous amount of high quality community building. Many of you are organizers in those communities, as you introduced yourselves. So can you talk a little bit about the community aspect of Svelte and how it's growing and how that like evangelism process is going and things like that?
Boss man, Kevin.
Yeah. I was waiting on Kevin to say something.
All right, sorry. So we've got like a bunch of projects coming up. Unfortunately, like I'm the only person that works full time on like Svelte Society, so my attention is always like divided between all of these different things that I have to do. So things are always taking longer than I want them to take. But I have all these cool plans about the Svelte Society website, where I want to make it like a living community where you can share REPLs and kind of like bring in people more from the social kind of angle, where you kind of get points for sharing REPLs that reach a top list, kind of this kind of stuff. I don't know if that makes sense. In my mind, it sounds like a lot of fun, and I think people could get excited about that. Other than that, I've just recently been working on getting our YouTube channel way more active. So that means memeing on the JavaScript world and other stuff. We've started the This Week in Svelte that Enrico does on the
really
Svelte
good.
Discord every week. He goes through like common questions that pop up in the Discord and all that stuff. Yeah, I don't know, like the hackathon.
You've started the dev vlog every month.
Yeah, the devlog. That's part of like the YouTube initiative to like get people to see what's actually going on inside of the Svelte core team, if that makes sense. I don't know.
There's a lot going on as well.
Yeah.
I mean, you've just listed out this big shopping list of stuff which is happening.
Yeah, and
So there
we
is- there
need
is
help.
A lot. Yes.
If anyone wants to help out, you're welcome to join. It's all
Absolutely.
open source.
Reach out to any of
So-
us.
Yeah. Sirens has been taking a little bit of a break since I was going through that big job search and just getting adjusted to my new job. But I mean, definitely looking for help, but also like speakers and anybody who wants to give a talk. I'm happy to host that. If you want to come on and just show your stuff, just get in touch with me and let me know. Yeah. We used to do monthly talks and I'm looking to get back into live streaming soon. So.
I do want to shout out just the Svelte Society Twitter account. You know, Twitter is where it is these days, but
Yeah,
Isn't-
Sean is doing a real good job there.
Yeah. I mean, the Twitter comment about is where it's at these days. It feels like it's dying every day.
yeah, I mean, we don't need to have that discussion, but I mean, I just have to say, like, you know, when I started getting involved in the community in like 2020, like having that Twitter account there to like
Yeah.
retweet my blog posts and
Yeah.
all that was just like so helpful for boosting people's Svelte content. And I think the community is still at a good size that like we're always looking for new content. Like if you write something, if you have something cool, post it on Twitter, or the Svelte subreddit, or the Discord, and I think you'll have people interested in it.
Yeah, and if you want a
100%.
really great example of just like an amazing blog, like Scott's blog, I don't know why it's so like well organized. But
I was just going to plug Jeff's blog actually.
or is it Jeff's blog? Was it Jeff's blog that's really
We
organized?
can plug each other's Svelte blog.
They're
Which one
both
did
really good.
Which one was I like totally in love with? I can't remember. Maybe it was
Okay,
both
everybody
of
put your
yours.
blog links in the chat and we'll all take turns.
Is this when I cheat and I put the Svelte Society website?
You can't.
This
No,
is
but yeah. Jeff's is also very, very hot. Like if you want really, really, really good style content, Jeff is there too.
Jeff is my go-to resource.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Most of the stuff I blog about, I've learned from Jeff.
I have Scott's and Jeff's up, but I don't know if Simon or Kevin or Brittany, you guys have any.
I actually don't have one.
Yeah, same.
I'm contemplating building. Like first I have to build it, obviously. So this will take a few years, and
Well, we have some ideas on
Yeah,
what you
you
can use to
probably,
build
and
it.
then I can
Easy.
start working on the content.
Yeah, you need to
Like
bike
a
shed a bit
blog.
about what you're actually going to build it in, like how you're going to build it.
Angular. It's going to be Angular, right, Simon?
Yeah, it's gonna be Angular, right? I mean, they do some great stuff with Angular Universal. They now get better hydration. So
Well,
yeah.
the thing you can do is you can build it in Angular and then you can migrate it to Svelte.
Right.
You know,
And
because
then I
that's
can do a
whole.
migration story on that.
Yes, exactly. I've definitely done that with websites before. Like, let's just all.
It's kind of fun to do that, actually.
Yeah,
Just like
yeah.
build it in one framework and then just convert it.
Yeah.
See how easy it is.
See all the
We
red?
all need another side project, y'all.
It's very therapeutic, just like the
Which is why
converting
you need
components
more.
one by one.
Yeah, which is why y'all need more open source contributors. So, you know, again, if y'all are even beginning and starting off, right, like it doesn't hurt to just say hi to these people and start chatting with them on Twitter. And, you know, there's a place for you somewhere. But I think community is always just about consistency. Like if you keep showing up day after day, that's the most important thing. Because I feel like
Totally.
open source can be very fluid. And it's like, are you still going to be here? But, you know, a year later, you're still there. And it's like, okay.
I think the
Which is
Discord
right.
that we have helps a lot in this
Yeah.
case because like you see these people every day, they show up and they answer questions and you're like, oh, we should show this this person to the rest of the server, like that we appreciate them or something. So we have this ambassador thing on the Discord server, which we use to promote
Svelte
people,
Discord is a goldmine. And I was so hyped when I got my ambassador badge. It's just a badge, but I was like, I'm in.
The last
Yeah, it's
discourse
really-
where I got a badge, I got it and then I said, I'm done. Bye. Accomplished.
Yeah, it really is great how many ways there are to contribute. Like some people might think, oh, if I have to contribute, it has to be through code, but that's like, I don't know, 10% of the things you can do. You can do like documentation, either you do it on your own site or on YouTube, or you augment the official docs because there's something that's lacking or misunderstood, like not well formed, well phrased. You can help out on Stack Overflow, on GitHub discussions, in the Discord, official Discord. We have a Svelte and Kit help channel and a ecosystem channel, and you can like answer questions there. And so there's like so many ways to contribute, and it's really great to see how the community flourishes, how many different people are like contributing to it. And yeah, I'm just like playing my tiny part in it and like standing on the sidelines, watching all you do this great content. And I'm like, yeah, really grateful for all this.
I think, Simon, you bring up a really good point, right? Like when you think about contributions, like creating your own content, educating the community is like a form of content that's really, really needed within the communities too.
I just want to point out as well, if there's some content creators in the chat. I know Matthias in the chat, Joy of Code. Him and both Hunter Byte are both killing it on YouTube with loads of great Svelte content. So if you want to learn, I think Matthias just done a 5-hour video on getting started with Svelte and Svelte Kit. So if you're interested in getting to know the basics, then check out their channels, because they are both just pumping out loads of stuff at the moment. So highly recommended.
Yeah.
Also,
go
of
ahead,
course, the Svelte Society channel.
Well, right. That's
Little
what I was going to
snippets of
say
information.
on YouTube. Yeah.
Kev's face.
I didn't even think about it. Like,
Is there going to be stern words later, Kev? Am I going to be demoted?
no, what?
I'm going to
Taking the ambassador badge back.
yes, the badge is going to go. No.
Well, I was going to unironically say the Svelte Society YouTube, because there's something that I really like about it. And honestly, if y'all haven't been on YouTube for tech content, because I know there was a period there where the only thing you could get for tech content on YouTube was basically conference talks. But nowadays there are some amazing channels doing work there. But what I really like that Svelte Society's doing is you'll do these like regular this week in or like monthly dev updates. And I always have it open in a tab, and I'm like, I'm getting to that one of these nights. I'm watching that. But then where you get me is you break it into minute-long snippets.
Yes,
and I
it's
watch
working.
the video piece by piece as the algorithm feeds me the next one in the line. So yes, it is
so nice to hear.
working. It is working.
Like shorts are getting people good.
Yeah, it's crazy, like how the new, like the TikTok kind of medium of content works. Like, have you seen they started putting multiple videos in one video to keep people's attention? It's crazy. It's crazy.
How to game with TikTok and YouTube. It's really
Pretty much. Yeah. One thing to shout out is probably the international communities that we have on the Discord. We have links to like a bunch of different Svelte communities that you can visit.
Yeah, also
that's
shout
all
out to the monthly blog post, which is
Yes.
also done by a community member, Danny.
Yes, that's great.
I don't know. It's always like bringing so many links and stuff together. So yeah, it's a great overview of what's happening.
Yeah, I think probably like if there's one thing that you're gonna like keep track of, it's probably the newsletter. because you get like all of the things very concise, summarized, and it's very good.
Yeah, Danny does an amazing job of putting all of the stuff in there, whether it's updates for Svelte or if new features or new libraries, like everything gets into that newsletter.
All right. This will be a bit of an abrupt topic switch here, but we got sort of a series of comments throughout in the chat about testing and different testing stories. Now, I think a couple of them were specifically asking for some debugging help with their unique problem, which we're not going to be able to offer here. But there was this sort of general question, which is just around best practices in testing in Svelte and anything that people should know about. I mean, people might be using Cypress or Playwright or Storybook or whatever general tools for development. Is that what you all use for your testing? Are there any unique or special tools that people might not be aware of that they should get aware of when it comes to either testing or debugging Svelte or Svelte kit applications?
I mean, when you're spinning up a new project, you get the options to have Playwright and Vitest installed to begin with. So I'm guessing they are suggested ones. I did see a comment about Cypress. I've not tried to use Cypress with SvelteKit project, but Playwright and Vitest, yes, along with the Svelte testing library. For Storybook, I think Brittany has opinions on that.
Not with testing yet. I haven't worked with Storybook
Right,
in testing yet, but Storybook has gotten a lot better than it used to be with Svelte. They just released 7.0 and they have like this whole new SvelteKit integration and it's working better. Slots are still not supported, which is a big bummer, and you have to do some workarounds with that. But I mean, their whole team is like working on it, which feels like before it was more community driven, and now it's like they have actually got an initiative to do more with Storybook. I also haven't used Cypress, but I know Jess Sachs was big with Cypress. She used to work there. She doesn't anymore. She was supposed to do a Svelte Sirens talk. She was supposed to give a talk at Svelte Summit last year and didn't get to come, unfortunately. But she might be a person to like look for in the community that you could look for Cypress help with. We use Jest at work. So like pretty much any testing library I think works with Svelte.
Yeah, I think the more important part is like how do you prepare your actual code for testing rather than the testing tool. So I feel like when you're separating out the business logic into like pure components, like pure functions, even if that's possible, then that's great. Or you separate components out that you have like pure presentation components where it's just property in and it renders something specifically. So I feel like writing like and organizing the code so is at least as important as picking a tool for then testing it. More so when you're doing end-to-end tests, it's probably not that important because it's all abstracted away. You're just writing click on that button and then I expect this to be visible, so you can like organize your code however you want. But when it comes to component tests and unit tests, I feel like having like guiding principles to separate these things really helps a lot with testing.
Are there any resources you have for good best practices and things to look at?
Not at the top of my head, no. But I generally, it's probably more about general testing practices, not very related to like how to use Jest with X, more like how to prepare your code so it's more testable, some things like that. So
sounds like Simon's volunteering Brittany for a Svelte Sirens.
Yeah, I'll look something up.
Awesome.
Jeff, you got anything to add on testing?
Not in particular. I mean, I think, like people said, we've got some predefined setups in the Svelte kit. But I think in general, whatever you currently use for testing, like should work. And if you don't know what to use, then go with Playwright or Vitest, just because those are going to come by default with SvelteKit. I do think with SvelteKit in particular, looking for stuff that has good Vite support will simplify a lot of things because then it can share the Vite config and all that. But yeah.
Could I just ask about mocking? What you use for mocking API endpoints, and is it like the standard sort of stuff, or again just what you're comfortable with and have used in the past?
So I haven't actually written a test for a SvelteKit app yet, so not much to offer there.
Okay. Anything you'd recommend, Simon, or is it the same?
Yeah, I don't have any like specific thing to recommend there. It's more like, okay, I like whatever mocking capabilities your testing framework provides you. So I think VTest has some things where you can like replace an import with a stub or something like that, or override specific methods. And I think using that. And then again, also trying to separate things so you maybe don't even need to mock things. So like if you have to, so like you don't have to write 10 tests for your API endpoint, because maybe you only need one smoke test for your API endpoint, which can be done through an end-to-end test. And then all the business logic is like living inside some pure function, which you just invoke as a regular unit test. And so you don't have to go through the API endpoint to test if it does the right thing.
That's what we do at work. We use Jest on the front end, but we have a Rails server. So we write our end-to-end test on the server side stuff, and then just use Jest for kind of making sure the actual things just function on that side, and mock like some simple data, but not the actual API calls.
Yeah.
I think with SvelteKit and how it moves a lot of the logic into the server side, I think that makes it a bit easier to test rather than before, like when you had most of the logic in your components. Because it's kind of awkward to test front end stuff at least in my opinion.
Amen.
Yeah,
All right.
it's
You heard it here first. No TypeScript and no tests. No.
Just move the tests.
Yeah, sneakily, we've arrived at the end of our time here. So I did just want to give everyone an opportunity to just sort of wrap up, maybe 20 to 30 seconds if you have anything that you want to say on the way out. I will say for myself, if you are a Svelte user listening to this, enjoy the renaissance, I suppose, the continued renaissance in the community. If you're not currently a Svelte user, I would suggest, giving it a try. I think it's easy to feel overwhelmed in this current environment with a lot of new things, as if you have to keep on top of it. But I do think that you shouldn't feel that pressure. What you're using now is probably completely fine. But it is fun to play with things, to see new ideas and new things, and just to get inspired by them. So if you haven't, definitely get a try. Like we said, the docs are amazing for this, to just jump in, low commitment, and play around. So do that. Scott, how about you?
I'm consistently trying to run a Svelte London meetup. When I say consistently, I mean once a month. We missed March. I did a workshop for CityJS instead, which we had people turn up to. We've got one scheduled for April 27th. It is virtual and in person. So there will be links in the Svelte Discord. So you can join virtually. That'll be via Guild, it's the platform we're using now instead of Meetup. And that's it for me. We said at the start of the recording here that I am looking for speakers. We've got speakers for April, May, June, I think, but we've got some slots, so we've got spare slots. So if you've got any cool projects you want to talk about, reach out to me or any one of the other organisers for London, or any of the people here, and they'll be able to put you in touch with me as well. That's it for me. Thanks.
Brittany?
Yeah, I'm going to reiterate what both of you said. And like Svelte Sirens is my thing. So sveltesirens.dev is where we're at. Hopefully we'll be back on YouTube soon. We're with the Svelte Society YouTube channel. We've got some playlists over there. You can go check out some of the older content. I'm always looking for speakers. So like I said before, if you want to host anything, let me know. And I'm happy to come on StreamYard and get your thing shown to the Svelte community. And the only other thing I wanted to touch on that we didn't get a chance to talk about is libraries. And one of the things that I think is really great is Skeleton has come out with a UI library, and they're growing in popularity. So component libraries is something that we were missing for a while in Svelte, and Skeleton is doing a great job with that and bringing that to the community. So, yeah.
Great. Kevin?
Cool. Yeah. So I think what I just want to say is that the Svelte community is great. Like I've made so many friends in this community, and I think if you just hop into Discord and talk to us, you'll be very pleasantly surprised. Maybe not surprised. You'll be happy to join us there. We're always looking for help with the Svelte Society stuff. Contributing doesn't have to be hard, or doesn't have to be like a big commitment. You can just do a small thing here and there, and that helps out a ton.
Great. Jeff?
Yeah, just gotta say, really enjoyed this conversation. Thought we had a great group of people and great topics. If you haven't tried Svelte, don't feel pressured like you have to switch today, but definitely give it a try. I'd start with learn.svelte.dev, which has all the updated tutorial stuff. Will take you everything you need to go. And yeah, if you want to read more of my writing, mostly about Svelte, find me jeffrich.net.
All right, Simon?
Yeah, also want to say thank you for having me, and it was a really fun chat. And yeah, to everyone out there, stay tuned for the next few weeks and months. I think really the development is only accelerating at this point for Svelte. So Svelte 4 will be out sooner rather than later, and then we're gonna start working on Svelte 5. We have a new website, like a little redesign, multi-page docs lined up for Svelte Dev. So there's a rework there underway as well, and so lots of things going on. And so, yeah, it's an exciting year for
Really
Svelte.
exciting.
All right. Well, that'll be it for us today. Thank you, everybody, for attending the State of Svelte. And we hope to see you all next time. Thank you.
Bye.